Hey guys, I'm Shoaib. Today we are comparing the BRITA water filter with the DREO Countertop water filter, the WF511. Huge thanks to DREO for sponsoring this video with no strings attached. So this is my honest review of both products. Starting off with the unboxing, first with the DREO WF511. In terms of what's in the box, first you see some installation guides and manual about the device, just more information about the device and how to set up. And then you will see a single post carbon filter. And I wish they provided two of these because, as you will see, they do have two pure water pitchers, and these post carbon filters are supposed to go in each of these water pitchers. They only provide one of them, and you will have to buy another one if you want to use on both of them, or if you buy more extra water pitchers, you'll have to get those filters for those as well. We get pre-installed PVC cartridge, we get an RO cartridge also pre-installed, and then we have the 5-liter raw water tank, which is also pre-installed. And lastly, we get a single drip tray, and that's pretty much it for what comes in the box in terms of everything that you gotta put together to start using the device. For the most part, you just peel off the tape, you install everything, put everything together, and pretty much go from there. Once you follow the instructions, they do recommend that you cycle water through the filters once and then to dump that water out, and then you can start using it. So the unboxing, installation, and everything is fairly simple. For the most part, a lot of the components already come installed together. You just gotta take the tape off and make it fully functional, plug it into power, and get started. So that is done easily. So it's a pretty clean, modern unboxing in terms of what comes in the box. For the BRITA, on the other hand, for what's in the box, this is a very small package, very compact, very minimal in terms of what comes in the box. You get the small pitcher, which holds 6 cups of water, and then it includes a single filter inside the pitcher, and that is just like the single 2 months filter that comes with it. And this is fairly simple in terms of installation. You just take everything out, put it together, and then cycle water through the filter once, and then you are pretty much good to go in terms of installation. And like you've seen, the unboxing is fairly simple in that sense as well. You just take everything apart and put it back together, and you're good to go. Moving on to the design, for the DREO WF511, it's a beautiful design with all white and transparent. They do also offer this in gray, so you do get that option if you want to order it in gray, but I got the white transparent or the white option, and it's a very modern looking device, very elegant, and it's also modern in the sense that it has a lot of the latest technology, which I will talk about later. In terms of the pitchers and stuff, they are easy to use, they're easy to carry, and highly portable, so you can store them in the fridge if you want to get cold water, or if you want to keep the water cold, so you can store it in the fridge, or you can take it with you to like your nightstand, to your room, have it on your table, wherever in the house you would like to have it in your kids' room. So anywhere, it's very portable in that sense. And I really like the design aspect in terms of the fact that you can just replace the pitcher. So once one of them is filled, you just swap it with the one that's empty, and it will instantly detect, it will instantly sense that you have put in an empty pitcher, and it will start refilling it. As long as the tank in the back is filled with water, you will be good to go, and it will instantly detect it and it start refilling the pitcher. And that is done very nice. And I really like the pitchers themselves. They're very modern. I like the handle on it, and they look very nice in that sense. They're very clean looking, the transparent look, how you can see the water inside. And the pitchers have this white little bar on the side, which is their way of sensing how high the water gets. So they can detect that the water is all the way to the top. Doesn't go completely all the way to the top, which is good because you don't want it to overfill. So it just gets to the point where it just there's maybe a half an inch of space there that's still available, but that's where it stops. That's where the water fills up and it stops there. And that's not a problem. That's just good design. You don't want it to go all the way to the top because then it will overfill and maybe spill. So on the other hand, for the BRITA, it's a very simple manual design. So it's also very clean and transparent, looks very modern, slick and clean in that sense. And the overall design aspect in terms of filtering the water is pretty straightforward. You pour the water in the small water tank on the top, and gravity does the job to bring it to the bottom where you get the filtered water. So it's a very direct filter system with no waste. So the amount of water you put on the tank itself is the amount of water you're going to get back in the filtered section. So that is done simple. One thing I do want to mention for the design of the BRITA, so the tank where you put but the water is not the same size of the tank that's going to hold the filtered water. So you do have to fill that tank twice in order to fill up your whole pitcher on the bottom. So that is one thing to note. You know, it's not just like you just pour water once and it will fill it up. You have to do it twice and then it will fill up the whole thing. But I mean, if you just want a little bit of water, then you can just fill it once and you're good to go. But if you want to fill up the whole pitcher, which is about like 1.5 liters, then you will have to fill up that water tank on the top like twice. And that's not a problem because that's just, you know, how it is. It's the way it's designed, that is just how it's done. And I know BRITA also has like bigger water pitchers. So the one that I have is a 6-cup water pitcher, but they do have one that can hold more water. So if you need something for the fam, you can always get those as well. All right, moving on to perhaps the most important part of this video. This is where I'm gonna do the test of these filtration systems, really compare them, you know, put them head to head and see which one really does better, both in terms of speed, in terms of water quality, and lastly, in terms of the taste. First up, let's do the filtration system comparison. So this is where I basically poured water into the BRITA and timed it to see how long it took the water to be filtered and get to the bottom. So with the BRITA, like I mentioned, you do have to fill the tank on top like twice in order to fill up the whole pitcher on the bottom. So just to fill up one full tank up to the max level that's recommended, it took around 3 minutes. So when you do that twice, you're looking at 6 minutes. On the other hand, for DREO, in order to fill up a single pitcher, as long as the water tank on the back is filled, it will take roughly around 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And to note, these pitcher sizes are about the same. They're both about 1.5 liters, both for the BRITA and the pitchers that come with the DREO. They're independently each are 1.5 liters. So the DREO definitely outperforms BRITA in terms of the filtration speed, taking only 4 minutes and 30 seconds to filter the same amount of water compared to the BRITA's 6 minute. This means like you can get cleaner and fresher water with the DREO much faster, which makes it, you know, a bit more efficient choice for those of you guys really prioritizing speed. So if you care about the speed, you know, maybe in the morning you just want to get quick fresh water before you head out to work or something like that, then DREO can do that quickly. And not only can it fill out the pitcher, you can also just put a cup under it and fill water on your cup as well. But the pitcher does need to be filled in order to get the fresh water onto a cup. So that is one thing to note. But in terms of speed, like you've seen, the DREO definitely does it quicker than the BRITA. Moving on to the water quality and purity level, this is where I took a TDS tester to measure the purity level of the water by both products. So in order to get a baseline or an understanding of the range of purity in water, first I started off with the tap water. And for the tap water that came out of my sink, I was getting around 110 to 126 ppm parts per million. And after putting the tap water through the BRITA, I was looking at around 100 to 106 ppm, which also sometimes it ranges to maybe slightly higher, maybe 112, 113 in that range. So like you see, the BRITA is not very far off from the tap water. It's not doing all that filtration. It's very similar to tap water. And lastly, for DREO, the filtered water, taking the tap water to filtered water, we are looking at 14 to 40 ppm. So it's a night and day difference in terms of purity level. It's way more pure than the tap water. In short, in the TDS test results, we can definitely see that there's a significant difference in the water purity. While BRITA reduces TDS levels slightly, DREO's 7-layer filtration system, which I will go more in depth later, definitely delivers a much more pure result. So lowering TDS from 110 to 126 ppm down all the way to 14 to 40 ppm, this suggests DREO definitely provides way superior filtration and effectively removing more impurities and ensuring cleaner water. And this is mainly because of its 7-layer filtration system. BRITA only has a single filtration system, whereas the DREO one has 3 different filter systems, and each of them have multiple layers, which I will go more in depth. But clearly, in terms of the water quality, DREO definitely outperforms the BRITA for sure. Lastly, for the blind taste test, basically I asked a family member to take a cup and fill it up with water from BRITA filter and another cup with water from the DREO filter. And without knowing which one comes from which filter, I had to pick which one I thought was better in terms of taste. So in my blind taste test, the DREO filter was preferred. In my experience, I found it to be more fresh and clean, and you can sense it in the taste. You can definitely notice the difference in the taste due to the carbon filter that's attached to the pitcher on the DREO. You can really get a sense of of it being more clean and more fresh water. This definitely indicates that beyond just filtration efficiency, DREO enhances the overall drinking experience for sure, which definitely makes it way better option if you are more taste conscious and you prefer a better quality, better tasting water. Then the DREO, it definitely does a good job in that sense. The Brita does have a taste filter, like it does take out any odors or anything from the tap water to kind of freshen it up and add a slightly different taste to it, but it's still very similar to tap water. I don't think it does a whole lot of a job in terms of really changing the taste of it. Moving on to the functions and features for both of these guys, starting off with the DREO filter, it's installation free. So all you have to do is fill up the 5-liter water tank and you're basically good to go. You don't need to like connect to your water pipes or anything like that. It's installation free. You just pour the water, connect it to electricity, and it should able to detect and start filtering your water. So for the DREO, I do want to note it is a countertop system, so it has a lot more, things going on for itself. But in terms of the pitcher, it can do everything that the Brita filter does and like way more. So first, in terms of portability, just fill up the water pitcher and you can take that on the go, like to your room, or leave it in the fridge or in like a countertop. Anywhere in the house you want to take it, which is very similar to the Brita's filter. And for the most part, both of these pitchers, the Brita water pitcher versus the DREO water filter, they're about the same. They both can hold up to 48 to 50 ounces of water. So it's basically does everything that the Brita does, but it has a ton of other features, which I'll talk about later. More in terms of the features and functions, I believe the DREO is definitely better in the long run in terms of cost effectiveness. Per liter, you are spending like 2.4 cents with the DREO compared to 5.3 cents with the Brita. So in the long run, you will be saving more with DREO water filter compared to the Brita, and you will definitely get a better quality of water with the DREO for sure, and that is all thanks to their 7-layer filtration system. Lastly, I do want to mention, since the DREO water filter is a countertop, it has way more flexibility due to all the additional features it comes with. On the other hand, for Brita, it is portable. You fill it up with water and you take it with you. You can leave it in the fridge, you can take it to your bedroom, stuff like that. So it does still serve all the purposes of being portable, similar to the pitchers of the DREO. And they have a LED ring light on the top, which turns green when the filter is good. If it's been less than 2 months, it'll turn on. Depending on the filter that you get, they also have one that's for 6 months. So less than 2 months, it'll turn green, and after the 2 months, it will turn red, indicating that you should change the filter. And like I mentioned, this depends on the filter that you have. They have a longer lasting 6 months one, but the one that's provided within the box is the 2 months filter. So after 2 months, I will have to change that filter. And that's pretty much it for the functionalities and features in the Brita. It's very simple, a lot more manual than the DREO one. So let's dig a little deeper into the DREO's functionalities, the other features that are available. So in terms of the other features that are available on the DREO WF511, you get a nice purity to drain ratio of 3:1. Basically, the whole water tank can hold up to 5 liters, and after it's gone through the filtration system, you'll get about 3.75 liters of purified water, and then there's wastewater about like 1.25 liters, which you will throw away. That's a fairly good ratio in terms of pure to drain ratio. In that aspect, it's a 3:1 ratio, and I think that's a fairly good job. You're getting 3.75, almost 4 liters out of 5 liters of water that you're putting in, so I think that's a fairly good ratio for that purpose. In terms of the user interface on the DREO, it's very modern. You get touchscreen, you get LED display, there's 8 touch buttons that you can manually control. You just press and go. It's very responsive, very modern in that aspect. So the DREO does make some noise, but that's because it has a whole system within, so it does need to be powered in, and it's running a whole system in order to filter out the water. It's going through multiple filters, so it's definitely makes some noise, but it's nothing crazy. It's not going to bother you or anything. It's less than 50 dB, at least in my test cases. I've seen it around like 40 dB and stuff like that. Moving on, the DREO makes it really easy if you want to make like tea or coffee in the morning. You can take the fresh water, either the pitcher or fill up a cup, and I personally use a Keurig coffee maker. So you just take the pitcher, fill up your Keurig coffee maker, maker with the purified water, and you can start using that to make coffee and stuff like that. And the pitcher's design, the small form factor and overall having the handle and everything makes it really easy to pour the water into a different water tank, especially for my coffee maker. So I do really like those aspects, and all these features are provided with the DREO, and it makes it convenient. And it's nice that you can buy more of these pitchers if you need. So if you have multiple family members, they would like to have one in their room, you would like to have one in the fridge, one on your dining table, stuff like that, you can buy additional pitchers from the DREO's website for like $10, which is a really good deal, especially considering the quality of these pitchers, and I really do like that. All right, let's move on to the cartridge. So this is very important for any water filter. You really got to understand what's really filtering it. And the DREO comes with multiple filters. There's 3 different filters. So the DREO has 7 layers of filters that the water is going through in order to get your final purified water at the end. First, you have the polypropylene and coconut carbon filter, and this has 3 layers in the system. First, you have the PP melt blown cartridge, which blocks large particles and sediment. Then you have the coconut shell activated carbon, which enhances absorption of off flavors. Lastly, you have the scale inhibitor, which blocks various ions, extends the reverse osmosis membrane lifespan. So in short, this filter is engineered to remove sediment, eliminate unwanted colors and odors, and observe residual chlorine. And this filter is good for up to 24 months, so 2 years. And I think that's a really good lifespan time for a filter like this. Like many of the ones that I'm used to only last like 6 months or something. But moving on, the other filter we have is the reverse osmosis, the RO filter, which has 2 layers. First, you have the reverse osmosis membrane, which filters bacteria as tiny as 0.001 microns. Then you have the nano silver filter, which inhibits bacterial growth. In short, this filter is designed to remove impurities as tiny as 0.001 microns while also preventing bacterial growth. And this filter is good up till 12 months, so a year. So that's fairly decent. And for the final filter, you have the post carbon filter. And to be honest, in my experience, I would say this is an optional filter. It doesn't make much of a difference in terms of the water purity, but it does make a lot of difference in terms of the taste. So the water will taste better, slightly better, and that is noticeable. So it definitely improves the water taste, but in terms of filtration, I don't think it's doing much. So this is an optional. I feel like it's also optional since they only provide one of these compared to giving 2 water pitchers but only 1 carbon filter, which also kind of made it seem like it's optional. If they really cared about this, or if this filter was really important, they would have gave 1 for each of the water pitchers. But in my experience, in my personal experience, it didn't really make much of a difference. I compared the TDS level of the one that had this carbon filter and the ones that did not, and they were relatively around the same. In fact, the one that did not have it in some cases had a better water purity level than the one that had the carbon filter, which I thought was odd. But anyways, you don't necessarily need the post carbon filter, but if you do, this one's good for 6 months. You do have to change it every 6 months. But more in terms of the layers, this one has 2 layers. So this filter has 2 layers. First, you have the fiber activated carbon layer, which improves the water taste. Then you have the propylene filter, which protects active carbon and farther blocks bacteria and impurities. So in short, this filter observes odors while retaining beneficial minerals, delivering natural sweet and well-balanced water that's good for your health as it is for your taste buds. And like I mentioned, this filter, you have to change it every 6 months. But like I've also mentioned, you don't necessarily need this. I feel like this is an optional filter. Like personally, once this filter runs out of its 6 months time, I don't think I'm gonna buy more of this filter. I think the other filters are more important. The PPC filter and the RO filter are way more important than this one. This is an optional in my experience. In short, all of these filters will reduce 99% of contaminants, and we are talking about over 1,000 contaminants. So these filters do a really good job. On the other hand, we have the BRITA filter, and they have 2 different options for you. You can get the 2 months filter or you can get the 6 months filter. And both of these do relatively the same thing. They reduce 99% of lead, chlorine, which takes out any odd taste or odd odor from the water. In short, it will reduce 99% of leads and 30 contaminants. So it's a way less in terms of filtration. It's not not going through any like multiple layers or anything. It's a simple water filter that's mainly just focusing on a lot of just minimum essential needs, so lead and 30 contaminants. So it's an okay filter, but that's what you're looking at for the filter aspect of both of these devices. Let's break down the cost of these water filtration system in terms of how much you'll have to pay for the filter and if it's really worth it in terms of buying water bottles from a grocery store or something like that, or if you want to get the Brita, which is slightly cheaper. So starting off with the DREO, the device itself is $300, so it is expensive, but it's definitely an investment in your health and well-being. But let's really break down the costs for each of these filters. So the first, for RO filter, it's $40. You have to replace it every 24 months. So per year, you will be spending like $20 for this filter. Second, for the PPC filter, which is $30, and you have to replace it every 12 months. So every year you're spending around $30. And lastly, for the post carbon filter, which is $10, and you have to change this guy every 6 months. So $20 a year. So in total, you're going to spend at least $70 a year just for these filters. So let's break it down even more. So monthly, you're looking at around $5.83 for these filters. And compared to bottled water, so if I were to get 40 bottle water pack at Safeway, which is around $4.79, and ideally for my family, we have a big family, so ideally we will get like 2 cases of these per month, sometimes even more, sometimes even 3, but let's go with 2. So we were looking at $9.58 per month, and annually we're looking at around $114.96 for these water bottles. And it is very important to note, like when you're buying water bottle, you are creating plastic waste. So if we get 40 bottles, 2 cases of these every month, we're looking at 960 water bottles per year, which is very unsustainable for the environment. So in terms of savings with the filtration system of the DREO, I'm looking at $114.96 with water bottles minus the $70 for the filters with the DREO. So I'm saving like around $45 with the DREO rather than buying water bottles. But now let's compare all this to the BRITA filter. So the BRITA filter, the device itself is $25.79, and the filters are going to cost you like $20, and that's if you get the 6 months one. And so annually you're going to spend like $40 a year, which is not bad. And that is cheaper than both the DREO and the water bottles. So BRITA is cheaper upfront and yearly, but going back to like our tests in terms of water quality, which I think it's very important, it does not filter water as effectively, so the water purity remains close to tap water. So therefore, I would not recommend the BRITA just for the price at current time. So like if you're looking for a serious water filtration system, a system that does a good job in terms of water quality, then you definitely want to go with the DREO, but I'll let you guys decide based on the other factors that I've mentioned in the video. So for my final thoughts in terms of the price, so the DREO's RO filtration system is a better long-term investment, saving around $45 an hour, at least for myself and my family, which is a significant reduction in plastic waste. While the BRITA is cheaper, its filtration system quality is okay, it's average, it's not the best. And if health, sustainability, and long-term savings really matter to you, I believe the DREO system is a better choice. All in all, the DREO water filtration system WF511 is way better when it comes to the most important part of a water filtration system, and that, in my opinion, is the water quality. So the DREO WF511 makes a dramatic difference in water quality. The filtered water is noticeably purer than the raw tap water. It's like a night and day difference, and it's sustainable in the long run, and you will be saving a lot more in the long run compared to buying water bottles. But at the end of the day, which one's really right for you really depends on what you're looking for. You want to choose the DREO RO WF511 if you want the most thorough filtration system, removing the wildest range of contaminants, including fluorine. You value like the convenience of an on-demand filtered system, and you're willing to invest a bit more upfront because the DREO does it all. It's a very nice, well put together device. I believe DREO in general makes quality devices, and this is definitely one of their quality devices that does the job in terms of what it's been advertised for. And lastly, you want to get the BRITA Metro 6-cup water filter if you are primarily concerned with improving the taste and odor of your water and removing some chlorine, and you're looking for like a budget-friendly option and prefer a simple and a portable solution, then you want to go with the BRITA. But at the end of the day though, going back, if you really care about your water taste and water quality and the purity of the water, I would highly highly recommend the DREO. Well, that is it for today, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell icon. As always, have a superb day, and thanks for watching.